We spoke about the wheel last time, remember? So actually, this is not where we start, but it's okay. Because I talked about the silver bribe and I talked about the wheel that circles around that the black people had seen. The wheel in a wheel, way in the middle of the sky.
Yeah, that's where we ended at that line. Cast the wheels circling immovably. So we have to start from the next line, but
Okay,
as a refresher.
okay. Namaste all, and welcome to our session on Savitri. Most of you know that Savitri was taken by Sri Aurobindo from the Mahabharata. It was a legend, the legend of a king who didn't have a child, and he wanted to have a child, and he prayed to the goddess to give him a child, and that child was Savitri. Now, Sri Aurobindo, in the very beginning of the book, calls it a legend and a symbol. So that symbol is very, very important because the legend is hardly important at all. It just tells us that it's from the Mahabharata about this king. But each of the characters in Savitri are special emanations that we can be in constant touch with. This is very interesting. So, if we want divine knowledge and tapasya, we can be in touch with Ashwapati. If we want divine love, we can be in touch with Savitri. So I suggest that you all read again and again what is called the author's note at the beginning of Savitri. The author's note. Hopefully you'll find it at the very beginning. Cesar, why don't you read it to us before we begin? It's so important.
The tale of Satyavan and Savitri is recited in the Mahabharata as a story of conjugal love conquering death. But this legend is, as shown by many features of the human tale, one of the many symbolic myths of the Vedic cycle. Satyavan is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within itself, but descended into the grip of death and ignorance. Savitri is the divine word, daughter of the sun, goddess of the supreme truth, who comes down and is born to save. Aswapati, the lord of the horse, her human father, is the lord of tapasya, the concentrated energy of spiritual endeavor that helps us to rise from the mortal to the immortal planes. Dyumatsena, lord of the shining hosts, father of Satyavan, is the divine mind, is the
Here,
divine mind here,
here, no, here fallen blind.
here fallen blind, losing its celestial kingdom of vision, and through that lost its kingdom of glory. Still, this is not a mere allegory.
Now read that very slowly. That's the most important part. Still, this is not a mere allegory.
The characters are not personified qualities, but incarnations or emanations of living and conscious forces with whom we can enter into concrete touch, and they take human bodies in order to help man and show him the way from his mortal state to a divine consciousness and an immortal life.
So they actually take human bodies. They are here on earth now, in many different bodies and souls. They can emanate wherever they wish. They can be in thousands of bodies. And at times, we meet someone, we feel that this is a very special soul. I see it in young children all the time. So we're going to go from a bond is put on the high climbing mind. A bond here means a cord, a fetter, something that binds one to a certain situation. It's not a bond like in money. It is a bond, a tie, a cord, a fetter that holds back the high climbing mind. It even puts a seal on the too large, wide open heart. And why does that happen? Because death stays the journeying discoverer life. Now, we have that word stays here. And very often Sri Aurobindo uses it in different ways. He speaks of the Purusha lying flat and Savitri staying on his chest. Now we have so many different definitions of the word stays, but here stays means holds back. Death holds back the journeying discoverer life. He's holding back life. Now, we talked the other day, Ranganathan and I, about can the world be perfected? Can there be truly a life divine? And he says no. He says there can be a life divine somewhere on earth, but are the animals all going to be at once supermentalized? Are all men going to be supermentalized? No more war, no more famine? No, it's not like that. It's stages of evolution. And the supramental is what we are all aspiring for. But we are 1/10 of 1% of the whole world, unfortunately. Now, thus is the throne of the inconscient safe. See, this throne of the inconscient is actually, we cannot understand it so well with our mortal minds, but the divine has poured himself, his one self, transcendent, immortal, ineluctable, down into these million creations, beginning with the fish and the plants and the animals, and half man and animal man, finally ending up with man. Now, Christianity and most other religions say that the divine is here, and all that is not divine is evil. And many of them say it's the devil. But if the divine is perfect, can't he be evil also? Can't he be imperfect if he wishes? See, this is something that the mind has a lot of difficulty grasping. But it's very true. Because if the divine is perfect, he is everything. He is in the stone as his own self. He is in the worm. I mean, we have a line in Savitri, and in the worm foresees the coming God. From the worm. So, but it's a game of the divine manifesting himself so that he can see himself in millions of other ways. And thus is the throne of the inconscient safe. Well, the inconscient is the last resort of the ignorance, while the tardy coilings of the eons past. Well, when someone is tardy, they are later than they were expected. They come later. And the coilings are the spiral movements of evolution. And it seems at times, I might have mentioned this before, that there is no movement at all. But it is very slow. And other times it increases. And we are in a time of tremendous increase because Sri Aurobindo and Mother brought down the supramental. Could have gone for centuries with no progress at all. And we have seen those centuries. Then he says, and the animal, capital A, browses in the sacred fence. Well, Nolini says that the animal is the vital physical consciousness personified. And we've often said he's like an animal, or this being is an animal. Now, the animal browses in the sacred fence, and there's a lot to talk about here. First of all, Amal says, the animal browses in the sacred fence connotes the defilement of the psycho-spiritual nature by one's lower vital being. And Madhav says the animal represents the lower rajasic nature. The sacred fence is the human being with all its scaffolding. Isn't that interesting? And here's what Alok says. This material world, more specifically the human body, is the sacred fence, a yajna vedi for the gods to descend. But the forces of death and darkness have usurped and occupied the field now, and instead of the divine whose law must establish itself here, instead of a divine life intended for earth, the sacred place meant for the gods has become a field for the play of an ignorant animal consciousness, hardly awake and half dead. It is this ignorant and obscure consciousness that is being termed as the animal. Now we come into another symbol that's extremely important. And the gold hawk can cross the skies no more. So we would think, what is this gold hawk that can't cross the skies anymore? So Amal says the gold hawk is the spiritual mental being. Nolini says the hawk is a symbol of the vital. The gold hawk is the vital soul transformed. And Madhav says gold represents truth, divinity. The hawk is the high soaring bird, the soul embodied in higher nature. And Alok tells us the soul or the psychic being. It also represents the powers and forces of the intuitive mind that descend from the supramental heights and enter the human mind. These are extraordinary. I mean, 2 lines of Savitri, and we have so much to look at. Now we continue. But one stood up and lit the limitless flame. Arraigned by the dark power that hates all bliss, in the dire court where life must pay for joy, sentenced by the mechanic justicer. Well, I think we just stop there for a moment. When someone is arraigned, they're accused, and they have to come before a court to answer a charge made against them. So they are charged with a fault. So arraigned here by the dark power, and Sri Aurobindo tells us power means strength and force, Shakti, which enables one to face all that can happen and to stand and overcome, also to carry out what the divine will proposes. Arraigned by the dark power that hates all bliss. Mother says the most usual form of power is control over things, person, events, forces. That's what power is generally used for. It's not used for the divine's work, but it's used to lord it over people. I've got this power now. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to crush anybody who disagrees with me. See, this is the sense of power that we live under. Mother, again, the most usual form of power is control over things, persons, events, forces. So now we come to this line, in the dire court where life must pay for joy. The dire court is a terrible court, a dreadful court. And then we have the next line to continue that thought, sentenced by the mechanic justicer. A justicer is a judge or a magistrate. So all this is happening, and now I have to go to the next page. Why is it a mechanic justicer? Because there are certain laws on this earth that do not apply to the higher spiritual ranges. But we live under those laws. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not want thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not swear. All of these things, they originally were the commandments in Christianity. So this mechanic justicer decides things, decides in this court, dire court, where life must pay for joy. Now, how do I get that?
Why life must be for joy?
Yes, oh, I don't have it now. How do I get that again? I have to get to the next page. I don't know how to do that. 19, huh? I'm not getting there. That's life divine. Okay, here it is. 19?
Mm-hmm.
We want 20 now?
No, 19.
19?
Mm.
Okay. Sentenced by the mechanic justicer to the afflicting penalty of man's hopes. This is now Savitri, huh? She is being sentenced by this mechanic justicer to the afflicting, the painful, the distressing penalty of man's hopes. Her head she bowed not to the stark decree, bearing her helpless heart to destiny's stroke. Now, this very, very important line. So bows and must the mind-born will in man. And that's what we were just talking about. That man has to be, we're going to continue, obedient to the statutes fixed of old. Statutes are established laws. And so you must follow those laws as long as you are in this lower plane of body, life, and mind. If you can rise to the higher mind and above, these laws don't apply anymore. But there are different sets of laws. For example, if you're in the higher mind, morality doesn't matter anymore. There is no morality because you're seeing all things as peace, as divine calm. And many who get into that spiritual range, into the illumined or the intuitive mind, make such a contact with the divine that they don't want to leave, and certainly they don't want to come back to earth. This is Advaita, and it is Buddhism. They are perfectly happy to unite with the divine. But what does Sri Aurobindo tell us? No, this earth has to be saved also, and you must come back to this earth to continue the work of cleansing it and preparing it for the supramental. So we see that man bows and is obedient to the statutes fixed of old, admitting without appeal the nether gods. This is so interesting because the nether gods are the lower gods. And these lower gods are not always good. Most gods are good. I mean, I told you, I think last week, there's gods of rain, there are gods of snow, there are gods of the sea. Thousands and thousands of gods exist. But in her, in Savitri, in her, the superhuman cast its seed. So now we see this total change that we, representing humanity, have to go through all of this, but not Savitri. She has to go through it, but she goes through it with a totally different consciousness. And now we're going to find that consciousness so clearly explained. In her, the superhuman cast its seed. When we cast the seed, what do? We hope for it to sprout, to grow, eventually to become a great tree. So here the superhuman is casting its seed so that Savitri can come to realize that she's the Divine Mother. Inapt to fold its mighty wings of dream, inapt is not inclined to or disposed to. She is not going to fold her mighty wings of dream. Her spirit refused to hug the common soil. Or, finding all life's golden meanings robbed, compound with earth, struck from the starry list, or quench with black despair the God-given light. Now, when I was young, this line was very challenging for me. So I went to Nolini and I said, what does it mean to compound with earth? And he said to me, mix with. So simple. Her spirit refused to hug the common soil, or finding all life's golden meanings robbed. You see, the golden meanings are robbed because of the inconscient and because of us, because we are not conscious. Compound with earth, struck from the starry list, or quench, extinguish. You quench a fire, you extinguish that fire, or quench with black despair the God-given light. But he's not finished yet. Accustomed to the eternal and the true, her being conscious of its divine founts, ask not from mortal frailty pain's relief, patched not with failure, bargain, or compromise. And in this life, we see almost every day is a compromise. We have to compromise to get somewhere, to do something, to achieve something. But she doesn't ask out of mortal frailty, mortal weakness, even a relief from pain. And she doesn't patch with failure, bargain, or compromise. Why? A work she had to do, a word to speak. Writing the unfinished story of her soul in thoughts and actions graved in nature's book. Graved here is sort of carved or sculpted or engraved. So these thoughts and actions that she graves in nature's book, she accepted not to close the luminous page, cancel her commerce with eternity, or set a signature of weak assent to the brute balance of the world's exchange. Well, isn't this an incredible passage here? Savitri does not accept to close the luminous page. Don't forget, she's the daughter of the sun. And she's come down here to save. Just what you read. Now, she will not cancel her commerce with eternity. Well, when we have commerce, it's give and take, huh? Or set a signature of weak assent, weak agreement to the brute balance of the world's exchange. A force in her that toiled since earth was made. Now that line is so extraordinary, because when Mother was asked, where were you in the past? Mother said, I was here from the very beginning, in different forms, in different bodies. I've told you the story of the children in Germany. No? There were two children walking behind their parents, and a bomb hit the parents and killed them both. And the children began to cry and pray to the Virgin Mary, please bring us some milk. And Mother said their prayer was so pure that she had to come and take care of them. A force in her that toiled since earth was made, accomplishing in life the great world plan, pursuing after death immortal aims. So the Divine Mother never gives up, body or not, body or no body. Pursuing after death immortal aims, repugned to admit frustration's barren role. Repugned is an interesting word. It means resisted, opposed. Forfeit the meaning of her birth in time. She's not going to give up the meaning of her birth. She's not going to forfeit it, to lose it. Huh? Obey the government of the casual fact, or yield her high destiny up to passing chance. She refuses to do all of these things. She won't do that because she's the Divine Mother. And now we will see. In her own self, she found her high recourse. Recourse is access or resort to something for help or protection. Her high recourse is found in her own self. She matched with the iron law her sovereign right. Her single will opposed the cosmic rule. Interesting. The cosmos has a rule. There is a cosmic rule. I mean, the stars don't just suddenly go off here and there. They follow a certain pattern. The galaxies follow certain patterns. There is a cosmic arrangement and rule to everything. And then he says, to stay the wheels of doom, this greatness rose. This greatness is Savitri. And she rises to stay, to stop, to hold back, to restrain the wheels of doom. And it's now 7. I think we'll end there. And then could someone read everything we've gone through from the beginning? Anyone? From page was 18.
A bond,
A bond. A bond is put on the high climbing mind, a seal on the too large, wide open heart. Death stays the journeying discoverer, life. Thus is the throne of the inconscient safe, while the tardy coilings of the aeons pass, and the animal browses in the sacred fence, and the golden hawk can cross the skies no more. But one stood up and lit the limitless flame, arraigned by the dark power that hates all bliss, in the dire court where life must pay for joy, sentenced by the mechanic justicer to the afflicting penalty of man's hopes. Her head she bowed not to the stark decree, barring her helpless heart to destiny's stroke. So,
Bearing
bearing,
her
bearing
helpless heart.
her helpless heart to destiny's stroke. So bows and must the mind-born will in man, obedient to the statutes fixed of old, admitting without appeal the nether gods. In her the superhuman cast its seal, inept to fold its mighty wings of dream. Her spirit refused to hug the common soil, or, finding all life's golden meanings robbed, compound with earth struck from the starry list, or
Story.
starry list, or quench with black despair the God-given light. Accustomed to the eternal and the true, her being conscious of its divine founts, asked not from mortal frailty pain's relief, patched not with failure, bargain, or compromise. A work she had to do, a word to speak, writing the unfinished story of her soul, in thoughts and actions graved in nature's book. She accepted not to close the luminous page, cancel her commerce with eternity, or set a signature of weak assent to the brute balance of the world's exchange. a force in her that toiled since earth was made, accomplishing in life the great world plan, pursuing after death immortal aims, repent to admit frustration's barren road, forfeit the meaning of her birth in time, obey the government of the casual fact, or yield her high destiny up to passing chance. In her own self, she found her high recourse. She matched with the iron law her sovereign right. Her single will opposed the cosmic rule. To stay the wheels of doom, this greatness rose.
Very good. So we'll close for this week. Namaste all. Yes.
I didn't understand what is this. She accepted not to close the luminous page. Who asked her to close, or why should she close the luminous page?
Well, we've
Where
been,
is accepted? Why she
yeah.
got to
Well,
use
we've been hearing about all of these, all of these beings, or this iron law, the the wheels of doom that oppose all of this cosmic rule, and even passing chance, even the government of the casual fact. All they want to do is forfeit the meaning of her birth in time. And so we see that she is so strong that she will not do this. So your question then?
Because the word accepted is not something which is suiting to me there.
A little
The
louder.
word accepted.
Yeah. If you don't accept something, you accept it not. Accepted not. Okay?
Okay.
Good.
She is not a normal food. She is super normal. That's what, if you
Yeah, and
go
hence
into the
acceptance is a small word. That's what I feel. Like she accepted not to.
for me, I understand like this because she accepted to come to the earth, which is a lower consciousness. She accepted that, but she doesn't accept to close the luminous page for the higher consciousness
Correct.
to bring here. So she is okay with the physical being, the human being, human body, with the luminous qualities.
that's what she is not a normal food, but she is keeping her step here and there, bridging.
But why did she not accept it? Well, we have a number of lines. First of all, she refuses to cancel her commerce with eternity. She refuses a signature of weak assent to this brute balance of the world exchange. Why? Because a force was in her that toiled since earth was made, accomplishing in life the great world plan, luminous page, world plan, immortal aims, repugned. Again, you see how Sri Aurobindo is telling us back and forth. Forces want her to give up, she refuses. This is the Divine Mother.
Mother's life, no matter.
This,
Just quote something from mother's life. She's answered this line.
you know, she suffered so greatly. She tells the story of going with her parents one day into this sort of a subterranean cavern. It was more like an underground, beautiful underground place. And she said, I wanted to get out of there immediately because in the past of my life, my head was cut off here. Wow. Yeah. See, Mother knew everything. She knows everything. So she will not accept this barren role of frustration. She will not obey this government of the casual fact, just casual fact. She won't yield her destiny, her high destiny, up to passing chance, because in her own self she found her high recourse. Next week. Thank you all.
See, the nature is good. Nature is good. So that's what when the nature is good, she cannot like a normal human being. She cannot accept certain things which we do, others accept, and she will stand up for something which we don't stand.
Yes, of
So
course.
all this, the nature is good.
So nature is
No,
understood.
but I thought
Accepted the word